doesn't know that. So you've got a major disconnect. With big companies, like huge organizations with a lot of like time problems, they've automated the process so that C-suite, you always say, I don't have time. It's an automated process, and then literally it gets done almost automatically. But the problem that I'm worried about here is that if it comes to the quarter and he says, well, the target was $180 million, and the manager says, you said 100 million, we've reached 100 million, is you're going to have to try and get everybody back on the same page. And that is difficult to do, but never impossible. Because what's going to happen is if you don't contract and you don't have those...
Work a bit, but then along the line, it didn't work again, was in the appraisal form, there is a place where you state if your targets have changed, and then what they have changed to. Then we add it to the overall targets for the company. So we keep updating the target for the company, but then the resources that needs to that the person needs to achieve those targets are also updated. But then at the end of the year, I try to make the case so that those some of these things are adjusted in the bonuses. The CEO and the board, we've tried it. We've tried several times. Sometimes there are emails that goes every quarter, about 2 or 3 times. And when it's not happening, you send an email, you send the form, you have the managers filling the forms. Then we are just waiting for the CEO to sit down and actually conduct the appraisal. You will send the email several times, go in and talk several times. Nothing is happening. So you are just forced to just push in the bonuses for them. But then the voice of you are not doing something right is what is eating up the managers. And as HR, it's difficult. You keep motivating them, but then it's not the same as hearing it from the CEO or the board themselves.
You must also remember that if you shift a target, it shouldn't just be a line item. It's a conversation. You need to, and this is really where I honestly believe that the leadership needs to be aware. It's a conversation with a human being who works in your organization to meet financial objectives and make money for the board. Not the board making the money. It's the workers, it's the staff. And that conversation, I can understand as a senior manager, I'd be really upset because if it just got changed without a conversation, because as a manager, if you change it, the conversation needs to be, well, what do you need from me in order to now do that? It might be more resources. It might be additional number of areas. So just by putting a line item there is not going to be enough. And again, this is what I think the position at a strategic level of HR is to influence and inform the right way to do it. By the same token, the board members obviously are sitting there and they can pull the levers. But at a CEO level, how does he feel when the board members jump all over him because he hasn't done what they wanted him to do, but they never communicated? I always look at this like cooking, right? I know it's, but it's like cooking. If you want to cook a really good curry, and nobody's given you the recipe to cook that curry, then how do you cook that curry? Then you cook the curry and the manager says, I don't like your curry because it doesn't have turmeric in it. Well, I didn't know that I needed to put turmeric in it to achieve the goal that you wanted. It's the same conversation. It requires a conversation. And changing goals or changing required deliverables is a consultation. It's not a dictatorship.
Hello.
Yes.
Heather, so I have some other questions for you.
Yep.
So this is from Dave Wilson, and he's saying he doesn't understand why behavior is benchmarked to the appraiser. He believes there's a behavioral competency that can be clearly measurable based on behaviors which are critical to business results. Example, behavioral competencies at his workplace are: 1, embraces change; 2, leads in uncertainty; 3, fosters innovation; 4, thinks strategically. All these are behavioral indicators for rating in his workplace. And so he doesn't understand why behavior is a benchmark to be appraised. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah. So the only question I have is, how do you rate embracing change?
Yeah.
How do you rate that? So embracing change.
He's
Yes.
hi. So this is
Hi.
David. I had
Hello,
to
David.
join on Jitsi because YouTube had a few issues. So I asked the question. What we have our workplace is that we do have competencies, leadership competencies, which we rate, and
Yeah.
these are behavioral. It's separate from your goals. So you have your
Yep.
goals, which you rate, and then you rate the competencies as well.
Yeah.
So something like the what did you ask about, please? Which of them did you ask about?
Embracing change.
Embracing change, right? So embracing change, I'm just trying to get that for you. So embracing change, we have the description, okay, competency description, which says anticipates the need for change, seeks out new and improved ways of doing things, overcomes barriers to change, implements change in a timely and effective manner, champions the importance of change.
Right.
And then we have 3 different levels. So you have someone who exceeds the expectation for this, someone who meets the expectation, and someone who needs improvement.
Okay.
And all of them, we have the indicators. So it is very, measurable. Okay, you can look and say, so for someone to exceed expectations, we say this person consistently looks for improvement and applies best practices and work processes. He consistently motivates others to adopt change, always overcomes barriers in the change process. So
Okay, so it's
we have
clearly
specific, yes,
so
specific,
your definitions are very clear. Okay.
exactly, very, very clear, very, very clear. So you can match it against actual the behavior that was exhibited, and then you either score them as an exceed, a meets expectation, or a needs improvement. So that's
Okay.
just on the behavioral part.
Who's rating that?
The manager. Okay, so the employee rates, what we do is that we have 2 ratings. The employee rate, you do a self-rating of yourself, and then your manager also rates. Then you have the performance discussion, and this performance discussion is vis-a-vis what the expectations are, what the descriptions are. So there's no way you can hide. It's clear there. You have to give examples where you exhibit it.
Okay. So the only thing I'm going to ask around that is how much of that does the manager actually see?
How much of okay, so I mean because the thing is you would have to justify why you think you're a meet or you're an exceeds. The manager may not see everything. That's why you go prepared into the performance discussion. Okay, your manager may miss some things. When you go in prepared, you can then show him, okay, at this level, this is what I did. This is the behavior I exhibited. He may have forgotten. He's a human being. He doesn't take
Yeah, people
records all
forget.
the time. Yes, so he can forget, but then can justify why you think you should be rated this, and then he can also say, okay, yes or no, I disagree, and then you make a comment after the appraisal, whatever issues.
So David, how much weighting does the behavior component carry?
So the behavioral component, it's a 50-50. 50% behavioral, 50 for the goals.
Okay. Now let me ask you this: if on the behavioral side everybody is scoring a 1, what is the outcome of that?
If on the behavioral, it's a 1. Okay, so we have 3 stars. Okay, we have exceeds expectations a 3-star, meets expectation is a 2-star, needs improvement is a 1-star. That's the rating system.
Okay.
And then you have goals as well. Okay.
Okay.
If you
yeah.
So if you should get a 3-star in your goals and a 3-star in your competencies, then your overall rating is a 3-star. Okay, so it's a mixture. So you have to do both on competencies and on your goals.
Okay. So the only thing I want to say about it is behavior doesn't change very easily. So if somebody is not capable of embracing, what was the behavior? Is embracing change, right?
Yes, embracing changes.
If somebody isn't really good at embracing change, now, generally people battle with change. People battle with changing.
Yes.
It's a rough one. The question I want to ask them and challenge is, if somebody is not getting 3 stars for that, okay, pretty normal, 1. 2, what is the company doing to improve that behavior? Because behavior takes 3 years to shift.
Exactly.
So that's my problem with rating this stuff, is that the behavior takes a long time, and the change one for me always gets me every time. If you think the top stress level indicators, right? Death of a spouse, divorce, moving house, changing job. Moving house, changing job are massive changes. People derail. It's natural. So how do you develop the behavioral competency of embracing change? And that's the only question I'm asking, is if this is 50%, then you need coaching, because training isn't going to do it.
Yes.
And you have to spend, so David, that's...
let me just try and answer you. So this is just one of the behavioral competencies. So in my company, we have 10 of them. Okay, we call them leadership competencies. You don't have to necessarily score on all of them. You have to measure yourself on at least 4 of these 10. So you may not be big on embracing change, but the company sees that these are the competencies that make people perform well in the company. This 10. And this is what our business results are based on. So if you can score on at least 4 of them, the system is built in such a way that it is your top 4 that you'll be appraised on, right? So it's not necessary to embrace change. There are others, there are fosters innovation, there are things strategically, build high performance team. And of course, we understand that somebody on the shop floor may not necessarily have all these leadership competencies, but then there are some of them that will resonate on the shop floor. Okay, so even though it's a 50-50, it doesn't mean you have to have all these at once. There are some that apply to each job level.
Okay, so here's a thought. And it's only the individual and the manager, right?
Yes, that's the basic line.
I want to just throw it on its head. What if you open that up as a 360? So hear me out. It's a 360 that's I want you as a subordinate, a peer, and a supervisor. And you did about 5 of those. Let me tell you what would happen if you opened it up on a 360. If you opened it up on a 360, you would start to find staff management potential that you didn't even know had it. Would that not be a better way of using that information as well? So that would change everything, because what you'd find is people would start rating. So let's take the shop floor, right? The shop floor suddenly starts to rate somebody as having management. I don't know what's that management called.
So there's a leadership, there's embracing change, there's leadership, leads in uncertainty, there's different ones. Fosters innovation.
But what would happen is that people would start to identify some of those behaviors in the people, and you'd be able to go, I didn't, because remember with the 360, it's what they're feeling and it's what they see every day. So if you open it up to a 360, you'd have far more benefits than what you've currently got.
I agree.
So,
I perfectly agree.
And then you'd also find your superstars that are sitting there, and you can go look at your performance reviews on the behaviors and go, hold it, this guy, everybody says, has leadership ability, or he's got management skills. We don't see that.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do with that, because that has more power, I believe, than just using it as a 50% weighting. 360 would give you so much more value out of that.
I agree. It's something we're looking at to move from the 180 to a 360.
Yeah, do it, because then you're going to find I call them nuggets. That's just my expression for them. You're going to find that gold nugget that's sitting in your organization that you don't know, that has behaviors that you could start moving them around, but you don't know what you don't know.
Hey, this is Jeffrey. Can I come in quickly here, if possible?
Please, Jeffrey, do.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, David, I'm trying to kind of understand something here, right? I don't know if I'm missing the point, but are we saying that we're assuming that a person being able to exhibit a behavior equally translates to the person making a business impact? Is that what we're saying? Because I see them to be two completely different conversations. Being able to exhibit behaviors is an individual competency, right? So the fact that a person knows how to sell doesn't tell me that the person can make a sale. So I'm looking at them as two completely different things. Now, if I have that business results conversation, I'm saying, okay, person A, how many units did you sell this year? That's how I'm rating you. That's completely different from me establishing, competency criteria. That's really for personal development. So I'm wondering, why are we trying to tie the two together here?
Yes. So in my organization, what I said is we do have the goals. So appraisals is in twofold. We have goals which are, like you're saying, sell 10 cars or whatever the KPI is. So that those are half of the appraisal. The second half is the competencies, which in my organization, we have competencies that we realize are key to performance. Okay. So these, in addition to what your KPIs will be, because we want people to exhibit the competencies, things that we believe in SGS. Okay. So these are basically what you'd find related even to interviews and all that. We use those throughout the process. These are skills, behaviors we want our staff to exhibit. So we also rate you in the appraisals on those competencies, if you get what I mean. But the goals are still there.
So let me ask a hypothetical question. I'm a salesperson for your company, right?
Yeah.
I fail. I rate very low on ability to sell, but I'm the topmost selling person within the organization. Am I still going to get 100% of my bonus?
Okay, so you actually sell more and exceed your target in sales. Is that what you're asking?
Yes. Yes. But I'm the worst in terms of behavioral competencies. I'm the worst salesperson in your company, right? Yes. Am I still going to get my 100% bonus?
You're going to get 100% bonus because our bonus system is different. It's not based on the appraisal currently. Our bonus system is differently. It's based on your business results. It's just based on your business results. The competencies will see whether you become a manager. If you'll be promoted, okay? But your financial performance is what your bonus is based on. We have it separate. Okay.
David, I'll give you a scenario. My name is Lucy. Yeah. I have a client. They have different staff, and there's one staff who will go all around to help the customer, will be ready to do the work 3/4/7. I asked her once, I said, how are you a manager? She says, no, I'm just a temp. I've been working here for a long time. New people have come and they have picked them up because So I went to the manager and asked, this is the lady that is doing the work. The people you've put as managers do not even care about we the customers, what we call them. What is going on? They say that she's not coherent, or when she comes to interview, she's not very coherent, or she cannot put things together in the interview. But with her work, she performs well and makes sure that even her manager, she's covering them up, doing work that they are supposed to do, and covering them up and assuming good position. So I have to go in. I harass the manager till they gave her a permanent position and a bit of senior position. Such person, see, some people are orators. They can say what they can. There are some people who cannot talk, but they are very good performers and very good managers. All right, she can do everything, supervise everybody, but talking and defending herself and showing that ability is not easy. And funny enough, I wasn't the only customer who complained. So when they gave her the position, I remember the marketing head called me and said, "We're giving your girl permanent position. Are you happy now?" I said, "Yes." So you see, this is what happens. So when you are looking at such a thing, you're telling me to come and defend myself, and I come and defend myself why I feel I'm good. I can floor you completely. But when it comes to putting the person in the field to perform and deliver on the report and everything, you have to look at that very well, because 50% to me is too much. You can use that one as a basis, not being mainly on performance, as something to help the people to do, how do you call it, for promotional purposes. But it has to be on something that you do it quarterly, so that you yourself can actually track it. If you don't want to do the 360, then you can track it yourself to know what is happening. Because there are a lot of people who can perform and manage, but they are not given the position because their face is not good, they cannot talk. There are people who are doing well for their friends, and their subordinates will take it and go and show it as their own. Meanwhile, they can't do it. They go to the same person to ask her, "Can you help me?" The person helps, and the person takes it out. So we have to look at those things very well, so that we don't have to be able to put some people down.
Lucy, I
Yes.
couldn't have said it better. I couldn't have said it better. I see Jeff's also nodding his head. You would get far more value, David, if you did a 360 and you found those nuggets where people are performing above what you expect. But at this point, it's actually going to put them into boxes. So a 360 from that is going to give you far more value and finding the nuggets than just they're good or they're bad on the behavioral side. Because to your point, Lucy, and I love the fact you used from a dealing with customers. Dealing with customers is an absolute art. And the people often who are managing, if you're talking about even team lead level again, are not competent. But the person is shooting the lights out all the time. And they're not being given the credit that's due because you're not asking a 360 around finding out what they're actually. So what you're doing is you need to find out what people are actually good at. So I would flip it on its head and say 360 and find out what people are actually good at. And if they're showing that intrinsically, then reward that rather than using it as a demotivator. I would use it more as a tool to find the nuggets that you need. Is the way out. That's the only way I could see that working. And Lucy, and I'm not here to bash people's performance management tools, but a 50% weighting is a heavy one on that. I would get more value on a 360 because you're going to find the nuggets. You're going to find the nuggets.
So the 360, as I said, I agree with that. You see, the whole point I made about the behavioral was because it was the comments on behavioral will always be subjective. I was just trying to make the point that behavioral can be scientific. It doesn't have to be subjective. Competency can be behavioral and can be objective. That's the whole point of all that. So yes, the 360 is fine.
Yeah.
We will look at going into that, but it doesn't mean our competency-based appraisals are not,
So David, you gave a very good example that it is clearly defined.
Exactly.
So, there's a clearly defined definition of what good looks like, what medium looks like, and what below par looks like. That does take a lot of the subjectivity out of it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But go 360, if you, David, you'll never look back. You'll never look back. Go 360.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Heather.
Yes.
Right. So I have another question here for you. Well, it's more like an observation and a question. So
Okay.
Mao said saying that technical experts often make lousy managers, in his opinion.
So I said, don't hold me to that. It is a worldwide thing. But what's the observation?
So he's saying, that's Mao saying that technical experts often make lousy managers. Does that mean that managers are mostly not technically apt?
No.
Does the managerial roles should
Okay,
not
let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that. What I'm saying is that people that are not technically minded have the ability to transition into management more easily than people that are very technical. And that is worldwide research. So I'm going to take lousy managers out of the equation. Let me retract that. What I'm saying is that technical people, the transition into management often can take longer than people that are non-technical. Let me rather rephrase it that way. Yeah.
Right. That's perfect.
Okay. I retract that statement.
Cynthia, there are a lot of, I work in an engineering firm, so I can know how to help you.
Yeah.
There are a lot of, how do you call it, a lot of managerial training and courses for engineers and technical people. So now you can see maybe how do you call it, oil and gas management, senior position. When you take their courses and or maybe energy management, when you take their courses, you realize that they are doing the courses, though they are going a bit, their technicality there is not as much as they being maybe doing a strict how do you call it, engineering. So you see them doing maybe a bit of HR, a bit of how do you call it, performance management, a bit of HR, a bit of finance. They are mixing all that up so that they can be able to manage. They can manage properly. So now, most of the technical people I have in my company, most of them are doing energy management. Some of them are doing general management, and we try to send them also to do supervisory management, senior management training, and all that, so that I can equip them, so that they will not be stringent. I realized that people who are doing ACC, when the trend was changing, somewhere in 2000, realized that most people who are doing ACC were forced to go and do degree because apparently when they are so strict in their AC, when they become managers, they are either so strict or too flexible. So they feel that degree in management helps you to be a bit flexible in knowing how to manage all the departments. So most of these technical people are doing that. So if you're a technical person and if you want to be able to manage perfectly, you should be able to take managerial course. There are not energy financial management. There are so many managerial courses that have come up for people who are in technical companies or technical positions so that they can also become very good managers. So I think those people should also take advantage of that and look at those courses and
It's just the transition from, so a lot of the times it talks to the behavioral makeup of those people. So if you think, so Lucy, it is Lucy, hey?
Yes,
it is.
So technical people just take longer to transition. That's all. It's the way they're made up. And that's why the courses for technical people are very bespoke and different to shift that behavior than in other areas. It's all it is. And, it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It just is what it is. It's just the way the behavioral makeup of those people are. And that's why a lot of the managerial courses for engineers and technically minded people are designed differently to get their brains to think a little bit differently. I mean, you can talk left hand, right brain. It's different. And it takes longer. So again, I retract lousy managers to say that the transition is different and the transition may take longer. I have worked with some engineers that are, because I'm in Sierra Leone, I worked on an iron ore mine, that were amazing managers, but they've been doing it and been trained for 20 years. And often it takes them out of their comfort zone. So the transition is just going to take longer. It's going to be a little bit more difficult, which is why training is different and bespoke in the technical environments and engineering environments.
Right. Heather, so how often would you say that we need to do the performance evaluation? Because I've noticed that a couple of organizations, from speaking to people, do once a year, some do twice a year, and sometimes the challenge really is that people are unable to bring evidence for what they have done in some aspects of their job. And even managers sometimes forget some of the things that have been done. And so now it becomes very subjective. Sometimes just within the period of review, that individual may have just committed some blunder. And so that is used for the whole year's assessment, which is unfair.
Very.
But yes, so really that's about what happens. So in your expert opinion, how often do you think we need to do this? Managers hate to do it.
I know they hate it because, yeah. And the reason managers hate to do it is it creates conflict. So if you're having a formal appraisal periods 4 times a year, 4 times a year is probably the best dipstick, but you shouldn't be doing it then. You should still be having monthly check-ins. You should still be having it's a conversation. So once a year is not enough, because by the time you get to the end of the year to tell somebody they haven't performed well, it took 12 months to tell me I wasn't performing. Nah. Every quarter, there should still be monthly check-ins with everybody and conversations. The reason managers hate this is it creates conflict. Now, conflict management is one of the most wonderful things I love to train on, because conflict is such a good thing because it creates energy. Where there's conflict, there is energy. The art is to turn the energy around and use it constructively. That's all. And that's the whole thing. People go, oh, there's a conflict coming because I'm going to have a tough conversation. It's like a marriage, guys and ladies. When you're having a dispute with your spouse, it's uncomfortable and it creates a lot of energy and friction. The art is being able to have the conversation, turn it around and use that energy constructively. And it's not the end of the world. I always tell people, so you've had a fight with the spouse and you're not talking to each other for 3 days. It's okay. You won't die. You won't die. You'll survive it. It's going to be okay. But you need to have. Nobody dies from conflict. Yeah.
So Heather, what happens in a situation where, let's say, the line manager is scored highly by XCOM or whoever is doing their review, whereas their team members score very low marks? I think that ideally your team feeds into your performance. And so how does it happen? How does it happen that your team can be rated, let's say, a 2, and then the manager will be rated, let's say, an 8? I always have a conversation myself.
So if you think about that logically, that it should never work like that, because the team doing the work has allowed the manager to have a high score because he's performed. So the two they are intrinsically linked, which is why in a perfect world, and Jeffrey, obviously we're talking not many people have done it the other way around, the traditional way, is the company has a strategy. That strategy gets layered down. So the guy at the top has KPIs. The guy at the bottom has KPIs that feed into the top. Below that has KPIs that feed into those KPIs. If they are not linked, then you're wasting your time. Because if the manager scores well, the only way he could have scored well is if the team below him was scoring well as well. Otherwise, it should be all the way up and down. And that's why also it has to be done quarterly so you can catch the poor performance. And I say it again, nobody goes to work to perform badly. Everybody wants to do well, which is why quarterly you can catch what the issue is, and HR can be an intervention into correcting the issues that are wrong. And a lot of that is upskilling, realigning on goals. And a lot of it's like you start the beginning of the year, by March, everything shifted. Things happen. Look at COVID. Things happen. We are currently having to redo all KPIs for the year because of COVID. And we have to be realistic. Those goals, I mean, who on earth would have seen COVID coming a year ago? Unprecedented times. So quarterly allows you to readjust in terms of what the market is doing, readjust in terms of what the market is doing, and recontract all the way. The overall arching objective at the top still remains the same. How you get to it each quarter shifts. That's business. We work in a very unpredictable environment. Anything can go wrong. But a manager scoring an 8 and the team scoring a 3 or 2, the two are not linked in some way. And also, in my personal opinion, every manager, regardless of basic KPIs, should have KPIs about, training their staff turnover, etc., should be mandatory at management level. Absolutely mandatory, because that is the management over and above his other KPIs. And I say people don't leave companies. People leave.
Yep.
Okay, if I can come in here, quickly, right? I think, just to share a personal opinion, I think that situation that Cynthia just described can definitely happen, but it will only happen if the design of the evaluation itself is flawed. Because managers are seen as influencers, right? And so if you're asking questions around people's ability to influence, the managers will definitely score very highly, but it doesn't translate to technical ability. So what I think should happen is that it should be a multi-part set of questions where you evaluate the manager based on his or her influential skills, but also evaluate that manager in terms of his or her technical skills. That will balance it out, right? So when we're creating questions for some of these things, I think we have to ask the questions around the various buckets around which we evaluate these people. In the same vein, I don't want to use a set of questions designed for managers, right, to evaluate technical experts. I mean, if I'm a machinist and you're asking me how I influence people, I'm going to score a 2, because my job is not to influence people. So ask me how I'm able to execute the key tasks of the job, and I'll score an 8.
So it's absolutely flawed, because there's no correlation. The system is flawed. Yeah.
Hi, Ether. I really like your point on the quarterly. This is David again.
Hello,
the
David.
Quarterly,
Again.
yeah, the quarterly appraisal. I think it's a very good point.
So Heather, I'm going to have him speak, and then I'll read the last comment from YouTube, and then we're going to have to end the session, because I know I'll take just an hour of yours, but we've taken much more. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take just last 2 questions, one from the person who was already speaking. I'll read one from YouTube, and then we will bring the session to an end.
All right.
Thank you. Right. So.
Right. Thank you. So yes, the quarterly thing, I think it's a good point. I asked a question about forced appraisal ratings. I don't know if it was answered. The bell curve distribution. Because YouTube setting up. I don't know if that one was answered. Was it? On YouTube forced.
About the question about putting people into the bell curve.
The bell curve, yes.
Yes, it was answered.
Okay.
So when we post the recording, you can always.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. That's fine.
Okay. So Heather, I'll take the last question, and it's from Benitankra. She wants to know, should quarterly performance appraisal always result in rewards, and would that guarantee motivated staff?
So the trick to this is it doesn't have to be a monetary reward. The end of the year is a monetary reward because it must be linked to compensation, because otherwise, why are you doing it? Okay. So if everybody performs and the business does well, then that means the business makes money, etc., etc. So quarterly reviews most definitely can be linked to reward. It doesn't have to be financial. It can be, you can reward people in a million different ways. And the trick to that is finding out what people actually want. And something we've just done in our organization is we've actually put it to the staff and said, what do you consider as a reward for performance? And we got a multitude of different answers. It could be, as I said, I love the one about duvet days, only because I love a duvet day. So reward depends on your philosophy that you have. So I love it. Quarterly reward. It keeps people engaged. It keeps them motivated. But again, I stress it doesn't have to be monetary. There are a number of ways to reward staff that have an impact on the business. Yes.
Okay. So it's been a very, very wonderful session. I've enjoyed listening to you. I've learned so much.
Thanks.
So much. And I'm so certain everybody else has learned so much. Heather, thank you.
Cynthia, thank you for inviting me. I've had an absolute ball. Lovely to have met all of you virtually. And when I can travel again, I'm in Ghana often.
Perfect. We're going to have a live session with you where we're going to get the opportunity to interact. Hopefully, COVID would have left, and then we can hug and shake hands once more. So
a normal life.
That moment, yes. And so, on behalf of everyone that joined us tonight, we want to say a very big thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Be safe. Be blessed.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. We will put the feed later on YouTube so that you can go back if you need some pointers, and then you can just learn.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Thank
I now
you.
have to go home.
Thank you, David.
You are home. I am still here.
All
Good
right.
night.
Safe trip home.
Bye, Lucy.
Bye. I'm trying to see what I can say.
Please join me tomorrow for the hot seat. Same procedure.
Hot
Join
seat,
me for hot seat.
Is it 7 o'clock?
We have Elsie Apal,
7 o'clock, right?
CEO of our creative recruitment.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye, bye, Lucy. Just click the red button and off you go. Ciao, ciao.
I'm trying to save the page so that I don't have to go suffer so much. I suffered a lot to get to this.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Paulina, for joining tonight. It was good to have you. Thank you, Nat. Thank you, Nee. Yvonne, thank you. Jeff, awesome as usual, talkative, but we enjoyed it. Dave, all the Yvonnes were on. Angela was on. Thank you for coming. Damaris, you did well, all the way from La Côte d'Ivoire. Thank you so much for coming. Seth from Norway, that was great to have you right here. Thank you all. Have a very good night. I'm logging out.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.
Hey, I'm going there. Am I still there?